Hi guys, I am here with a true story. This one is by Trish Propson, and it is called We Never Have to Say Goodbye. God gave me the words to a song, Mom, my 10-year-old daughter Gina said as she burst into my room. That's nice, dear, I replied wearily. In the days after September 11th, 2001, everyone seemed emotionally exhausted and unsure of even the most basic things. I did not have the strength to join my daughter's childish declaration of faith. Childish. Just because she doesn't believe it doesn't mean it's childish. But she persisted. For weeks after the attacks, she pursued me, patiently describing how God was speaking to her directly about the emergency rescue workers who had died in the towers. I dismissed her repeatedly. Pray about it. Write it down, what God is telling you, I suggested. Mom, please sit down and listen to me, she begged 3 weeks later. I slumped into a chair. In the background, the television flashed tragic images of failed rescue attempts at the pile of rubble now called Ground Zero. I listened half-heartedly as she began to read what she had written. God told me to write a song about the rescue workers who died in the towers. Their children didn't get to say goodbye to them, and they are very sad. God has a message for them. She spoke with a confidence and passion I had not noticed before. As she read the words to the song God had given to her, my heart came to life. I knew the words my young daughter spoke could not have been created by her child's mind. The words were filled with deep mourning and unspeakable pain. I listened as she recited profound words of restorative hope and healing. When she finished, I sat awestruck. I realized she had indeed heard from God. I looked at the horrific images on the TV screen and back to the innocent trust in my daughter's eyes. What does God want you to do with the words to the song? I finally asked, wiping away a sudden flood of tears. Oh, that. Simple. He asked me to write the song, make a CD, and go to New York to give it to all the children who lost a parent. She spoke with a transparent faith and determination that only comes from an encounter with God. She skipped off excitedly to play outside. I watched her through the window as she danced through the fall leaves with her younger siblings. What do you want from us, God? I prayed. Trust her. New thoughts blazed through my mind as I pondered what could happen next. For the next 13 months, we worked on the song. As Gina shared her vision with musicians and church leaders, the simple lyrics from God's heart to my child took on a life of their own. We were quickly swept into a new world of songwriting, sheet music, recording studios, musicians, voice talent, artwork, and copyrights. Dozens of professionals rallied around her vision. She never doubted that she'd heard from God and never wavered in her commitment to fulfill God's command regarding the song. My doubt constantly interrupted the process. Her goals seemed impossible. With God, nothing's impossible. See, that's why God comes to little children. And little children see this stuff more often because they are innocent. And they believe, and they, like this little girl, she had no doubt she was going to do this. And no doubt she heard from God, just like she was talking to her father sitting there on the bed with her. She acted like it was just, normal. But adults, as you see, like her mother, didn't believe it. That's why you got to be like a little child to enter the kingdom of heaven. You got to be like a little child. Okay. God never wavered in her commitment to fulfill God's command regarding the song. My doubts constantly interrupted the process. Her goals seemed impossible. But Gina kept saying, Mom, if God wants it to happen, He will show us what to do. We just have to listen to what He is telling us. We prayed about the song every day. Our entire family was immersed in the project. When we hit roadblocks, she often came back to God with a God-sized solution. In her faithful heart, everything seemed reasonable. God asked her to put all the names of the fallen rescue workers on the CD jacket so that every child's parent would be listed. We found that no official list existed, and controversy surrounded the names of the deceased rescue workers. When I was ready to give up, she exclaimed, "God says to make the list for the CD cover ourselves, Mom." Trust her, God's words rang in my heart. After months of research and contact with the officials in New York, we had an approved list to print on the CD cover. "See, I told you," she exclaimed. Walking through a local bookstore that spring, Gina stopped at a painting of a firefighter with an American flag. The print was titled, "No Greater Love." We studied it for a few minutes before moving on. A few days later, she came to me. "Remember that painting at the bookstore, Mom? God says that should be on the cover of the CD. We can't just use it on the cover. The painting is copyrighted. Painters don't just give away the rights to print their work," I reasoned. "Well, this one will," she announced. A professional musician and songwriter helped Gina finalize the lyrics. She suggested the title change, "We Never Got to Say Goodbye," to "Cause We Never Have to Say Goodbye." This simple shift in lyrics brought a new level of eternal hope for grieving families who would see their loved ones again in heaven. The change was brilliant and made sense to everyone involved in the song project. Gina declared, "I will have to ask God if that is what He wants us to do." And so it went for the rest of 2001 and into 2002. We moved forward with the project. I coordinated all the details. Gina prayed and shared God's directives as He gave them to her. God edited and approved the final lyrics. When we needed a recording studio, God provided. Professional studio musicians and detail sound mixing artists embraced the vision and volunteered. Contact with government organizations and 9/11 families seemed effortless. A donation for discs and reproduction came from an unknown source. Approval and digital artwork from artist Ron DiCanio for the CD cover came as my daughter had predicted. Money for printing was donated and friends packaged the CDs, complete with a bow and a prayer for each of the children who would receive the song. Ain't that precious? Such an innocent, sweet-hearted girl. Gina's faith faltered briefly in early September 2002. She thought all along that God wanted the CD distributed at the first anniversary ceremony commemorating the brutal World Trade Center attacks. When all doors seemed to close and the anniversary date came and went, she questioned if any of what she had heard was real. When she doubted, God gave me the strength and resolve to encourage her. The CD was finished and shipped to a 9/11 family organization shortly before Thanksgiving. We prayed over the plain brown shipping cartons and watched as what began as a directive from God moved down a sterile conveyor belt toward an unknown future. I sighed in relief, assuming we had completed the task God had given my daughter 13 long months before. She was unsettled about the CD, thinking she was just grieving the end of the project. I tried to comfort her. "I just think there is more to it, Mom," Gina said. I looked into the eyes of a young girl who had matured far beyond her years because of the song. "I trust you," I said. The organization in New York received the CD shipment and called 2 weeks before Christmas, asking her to come and sing for the fallen rescue workers' children at a Christmas party later that week. I declined, knowing I could not afford to arrange a trip to New York City in 4 days. "Oh, did I forget to tell you?" Jenna asked with an innocent smile. "God said we are going to New York, and He will pay for the trip and make all the arrangements." In her mind, it was already done. I shook my head in amazement and called the person back to say we would be there. The next day, a man donated frequent flyer miles. A transit strike in the city left all hotels in Manhattan overbooked. A couple from church offered a pre-booked hotel room just a few miles from where Jenna was to sing. "Trust her," God whispered again into my doubting mother's heart. We spent a week in New York singing her song, meeting with 9/11 families, touring police and fire stations, and visiting Ground Zero. God met every need during the trip, from free limousine transportation in the gridlocked city to personal contact with government officials and seats on a waited list flight. My daughter prayed, never doubting that God would swiftly answer. God used the song to change Jenna. She has never questioned her trust in Him, even during her turbulent teen years. She often reminded me that God chose her to serve Him once, and she trusted that He would continue to guide her steps. God used my daughter's unwavering commitment to His guidance to strengthen my own faith. Many times as trials threatened to overtake me, I was reminded to trust God even when things seemed impossible. God used the words of my daughter's song to impact the hurting families of the rescue workers who lost their lives at attempting to save others. He used the simple faith of an obedient child to bring hope and healing to thousands of children who lost a parent in the Twin Towers on 9/11. Many years later, Jenna still stays in contact with the people she met during that journey. Now a police officer herself, she would tell you that she heard directly from God when she was just 10 years old, and the words to that song changed everything. Good night, guys.